Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
Hey, I'm Logan. I'm a sergeant first class in the Army, and I've been lucky enough to secure one of the charity slots provided by the Lifetime Foundation for next year's Leadville 100. In order to do this, I'm looking to raise around $2,800 over the course of the next year to donate to the Lifetime Foundation. A lot of their focus is on youth movement and nutrition and conservation, among other things. And it's a really great cause, and I appreciate any help that you guys could give. And a little bit goes a long way, and it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
In October 2019, Arlington, Texas was chosen to be the home of a new national museum, unlike any other. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a unique home of military history. The 100,000 square foot museum will house exhibits, archives, and artifacts relating to the 3,500 U.S. troops who have been awarded the medal, the nation's highest honor for valor in combat. The museum will have 31,000 square feet of galleries dedicated to U.S. troops who have received the award. The museum CEO, former Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, said the museum will focus on education as much as preservation. The building will have 5 areas dedicated to Medal of Honor winners from the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The main gallery will be located in a central plaza under a 25,000 square foot slab of steel, which will appear to be suspended in midair. It will be supported by 5 pillars. Black Rifle Coffee is a corporate sponsor of the museum, as are the Dallas Cowboys. The museum's board also includes over a dozen major corporations and 6 Medal of Honor recipients, including David Bellavia, Patrick Brady, and Britt Slabinski. Army Staff Sergeant Bellavia was awarded the medal for clearing an entire house by himself on November 10, 2004, as a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. He killed 4 enemy fighters and wounded a 5th in close quarters battle. Army Major General Brady flew and coordinated the evacuation of 51 seriously wounded men during a firefight in Vietnam in January 1968. Slabinski, a Navy SEAL chief and team leader, led a rescue team of SEALs during Operation Anaconda in Afghanistan in March 2002. Slabinski and his team flew to a mountaintop ambush site to rescue Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who had fallen from the back of a helicopter. Slabinski led the team through almost constant combat against an entrenched Taliban force. Along with the board members, former presidents Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama serve as honorary directors. The museum is expected to open to the public in late 2024.
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation. MisFitNation. The MisFitNation show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the MisFitNation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience need to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the MisFitNation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the MisFitNation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel, at @the_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. The ToosDay Crue is here, hosted by Stephen LaMonica and Jay Collin. It is a MisFitNation production that brings powerful stories of grit, resilience, and leadership to life. Stephen is a business leader and YouTube consigliere, ensures the show runs smoothly, providing real-time feedback and maintaining discipline during live broadcast. Jake, a 25-year Army veteran and former EOD tech. We call him Hurt Locker. We call him Lacey. Offers deep insights from his extensive service, which includes multiple combat deployments and VIP missions around the globe. Together, they welcome guests from diverse backgrounds to share their journeys, inspiring listeners with stories of overcoming adversity and leading with purpose. Whether you're tuning in for the insightful discussions or to enjoy Stephen's passion for NASCAR or Jake's anecdotes from his farm in Kentucky, the ToosDay Crue delivers a unique blend of entertainment and inspiration every week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ToosDay Crue! All right. The ToosDay Crue will cut to you in a minute. But first, we have to pay homage to those who we lost in the last 3 days now. We can't go one show without losing an officer in the line of duty. This time it's Police Officer David Lee from the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department in Missouri. His end of watch is September 22nd, 2024. So please keep his friends, his family, his coworkers in your thoughts, in your prayers, and maybe let's think of peaceful solutions to these things instead of first going to try to kill each other. Let's talk things out. And now to the boys on the show. Cagney, Lacey, take it over.
Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, and here's Jake and I. Another fun-filled evening.
Good evening, Stephen. How you doing this evening?
I'm good. Can you believe this is episode 446 already?
446. Wow.
We've only been here for a little bit of that, but damn. 4 seasons and 446 episodes.
Hey, that's
props to MisFitNation.
Hey, chops to our executive producer.
Yeah.
Got a good show tonight.
Yes, we do.
We have a gentleman, JD Mass. He's coming to us from St. Louis, Missouri. If you've never been there, it's a pretty neat town, and I like it over there. The only place in the country still got a free zoo. I like it.
When I was there with Rich, I never went to a zoo. I don't think. Did a lot of drinking, but.
The zoo and the city museum are two must-go-tos if you ever go to St. Louis, Missouri. I love it over there.
But back to be the tourist.
Yes, but getting back to JD, I read his bio. He's got a pretty unique story. His family they raised their children amongst the black community in a very segregated city, and then afterwards, as he got older, or one of his childhood friends was Nelly, and so I'll let him tell everybody about that, and then after everything, he went to school. He studied organizational psychology to help him, better understand culture and everything. And tell you what, let's bring JD in here and let him tell his story.
Good evening, JD.
Good evening, JD.
Good evening,
Welcome to the
fellas.
show.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure.
JD, we talked a little bit in your introduction, but just start from wherever you want to start to how we got where we're at right now. And we'll ask some questions along the way, and I'm sure our listeners will have some questions as well.
That sounds great. So My parents, I was born in the mid 70s, and my parents purposely wanted to raise their children. I'm the oldest of three, I have two sisters in and around Black community. They knew that they grew up segregated from that and wanted something different for us. Really not knowing what they were getting into, just knew they wanted to raise us not to be racist in a system that they saw as inherently raises us to be segregated and to have racist tendencies. And so in that process, we moved. I was born in Philly. At 4 years old, we moved to St. Louis in an area called University City, which I feel is the greatest place on earth. And it was the only diverse area in St. Louis. They grew up in a neighboring county or municipality called Clayton, which was a more well-to-do area. And so we moved next door to who became my best friends. And it was like Big Mama's house. It was, we called the grandmother Ma. It was mother, it was aunts and uncles in the house. And some of which were still young enough to be in high school when I was 4. And, who became my best friends. It was 4 brothers. I was best friends with the oldest 2. And I was welcomed in, and I was taught manners when I come in the house. And it was a very different culture, but it was also like a very welcoming culture for me. And because I had this set of friends, I met other friends through them. And eventually, just given the nature of us being segregated and not knowing enough about each other, it became difficult to get white friends growing up. I played tennis, I played baseball, I met people in different social settings at synagogue, whatnot. And, they would like me and we'd take a liking to each other. And then they would find out I had a lot of Black friends and they would get sick almost immediately. Oh, sorry, can't come over today. And so it was very interesting. I also saw how I was treated differently when I was with my friends versus when I was not. And it really spurned a curiosity in me. Why did this begin in the first place? Why, when I'm with other friends, people coming from the tennis court, where we, in my family setting, cousins, whatnot, did I not get harassed at night? When I came home with my Black friends and we walked through Clayton to get home, why did we often get stopped by the police? Why did they make up stories from time to time about how there was a burglary and they were just checking things out? And, we weren't carrying anything, so we were pretty stupid burglars, or we, I guess, maybe had stashed it somewhere. But I also learned, like, I wasn't prepared for that because my parents didn't really expect any of that. So at one point, there was a story I tell in my book that that the police stopped us and they just kept telling us about this burglary and asking us where we're going. And we're trying to tell them we're going home and what are we doing? And we're coming from the movie theater and all of these different questions. And finally, I go, look, man, can we just help you solve the case? And they go, well, if you wanted to help us. And no, my friends first went, no, we can't. And then they said, oh, well, if you want to help us solve it, then you know something about it. So what are you not telling us? And I went, oh, I need to shut the heck up at 12 years old. And so that what Black families would call the talk about how you react to police, how you behave around them, And so on the way home, they said, hey, these guys aren't our friends right now. Let's just keep it simple. Don't answer. Keep going. And so, but there are stories. We'd be at hotels hanging out and people from out of town would be in and we'd make friends and we'd hang out late at night. And the police ended up bringing us home, knocked on the door to my mother's house, let us in and said, there's no charges. And my mother thought like they were a taxi or something. Oh, thank you. There's no charge. Great. They brought us home. So it was a very, very different worlds, but yet we were so close to each other. And that just spurred me to want to do something to kind of help bridge the gap and gain understanding.
I'm kind of like you. I think if everybody looks at what everybody has in common, we find out that we really have a lot. We don't have many differences.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants the same thing.
For that, right, exactly. And that goes even across. So I look at race from a competition standpoint. And if you look at our culture and how our economic system is developed, it's all about competition. There's a scarcity of resources on the planet, and therefore we're in competition to control them. And you see people in your same industry as competition. You now see people in your same job as competition. You're trying to get the same place. And so there's such a level of scarcity outlook that's kind of created to keep us in this system of competition. But race itself, there's a race to control the resources. And so I read about a gentleman, Dr. Claude Anderson, who defined racism as it was originally a European race went from a European race to colonize and control resources to now we can separate there's an easily identifiable difference between us if we can see it from afar. And that became how racism itself was developed. Yes, bigotry, part of it. Yes, prejudice. Yes, discrimination. Those things are part of it. But the racism is the system of trying to control and separate the resources. When we start looking at how competitive we are across economic standpoints, across political standpoints, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you voted for this person, I can't even talk to them anymore. Why? If somebody on any side needed, if I needed $100, I'll take myself from someone on either side of the political realm, and they were friends with me, they would give me $100 if they had it. Yes. If I needed help changing my tire, they would help me change my tire. There's so much at a level of humanity that we just are not equipped enough emotionally or mature enough anymore as a society to talk things through and find that common area, like you were saying, Jake, that we can just, build these relationships. And so that's part of what the changes I want to see.
Yeah. Talking about not being able to talk to one another. And a lot of people said this, I want your view on it. What effect do you think the separation and the shutting down and getting everybody away from each other during COVID, what effect did that have on our ability to communicate verbally instead of on the keyboard?
Right. So for me, it's all about approach. If I want to approach something from a standpoint of we're all in this together and we should love one another, then I'm going to build my interactive systems. I'm going to approach something differently. I'm going to look at COVID and say, what does Jake and Steven need from me that I can provide? And so much so, our approach has been so divisive from a controlling standpoint, not from the majority of us standpoint, but it's been so divisive, and we don't know enough about each other, and we've been taught that to be fearful in so many ways that when we add COVID into the mix and having to be at home and add this technology into the mix, we're just approaching it with more of that same approach. And yes, that just like we set the brush. Now we just add the lighter to the brush fire and whoosh, we don't have to do anything anymore. They'll do that themselves, right? And that's how I looked at it.
Okay.
See, I grew up in Jersey City. I'm 55 years old. Jersey City is the most multicultural city in the area, in New Jersey, We didn't say, oh, we're going to go play with the black kids. We're going to go play. We went and played. We played basketball. We went and picked up football games. We just hung out. We didn't see color back in the 70s and 80s like that,
Yeah.
We just went out and did things. We didn't fight because you didn't look like me. We were hanging out together. We were just like family.
Right.
We would go grab a ball and let's go play. That's what we did.
and we might talk trash and say, that or
we always
this, that,
talk
and the other,
trash.
and say that you're black this or white this or whatever. My nickname was Jew Boy growing up. I didn't think anything of it, but like one of my nicknames anyway. There was Messy Jesse and all kind of other things. But like, yes, I agree with you. It's so funny because so many people that I grew up with who were black that said, I didn't even know it was racism, and really until I went out into the world and had to face things differently. And because we didn't grow up, because we grew up like that, so much of this makes sense. And so many people who grew up without seeing that, just our education system doesn't teach us about other cultures. And that's a shame, right? We learn about America, and then we learn about world history, and it's really European history. We don't learn about the beauty of other cultures, and that sort of keeps us sheltered and not even understanding that there's so many more ways to look at the world that we could all embrace and be curious about, but we're just denied it, and it just helps us form a level of, whether it's ignorance, I don't like to make that from a negative standpoint, but it just does. It keeps us from understanding so much more. And once again, you don't know what you don't know, and you're now out there.
Right.
I think that's how I started off, and I'll admit right now, I started off behind the power curve. I grew up in rural southwestern Indiana.
Really? I thought you had a New York accent.
But I didn't have a.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I didn't have a conversation with a black person until I joined the Army.
Right.
I mean, I'd seen black people on TV. I'd seen them, if we traveled, but that was it. And it was, you talk about going out in the world. It was culture shock.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And you just kind of got to learn on the fly.
Yeah. I sort of the opposite. I didn't have my first closest white friends until I went to Ohio State for what I call my first freshman year of college. So,
well, see, I did like you till you said Ohio State.
I'm sorry I said that.
Oh,
truth has to come out, though, Jake.
Yeah, hey, that's right. That's right. But I use better.
Yes, I got it. Except in sports, but go ahead.
So let's shift gears a little bit. Tell us about how you got involved with Nelly.
Okay. So, on the cover of my book is my high school prom picture. And I don't know if you've seen the cover, but, for your audience that's looking, this was my prom picture of me and my best friends, right? This one was the one I've known since I was 4 years old. Kneeling next to me on that is Nelly. He moved from the city of St. Louis into University City in the 7th grade. He played sports. Most of them played sports. I played sports. So sports is another way. The military is one way. A lot of people get to meet people of different cultures. Sports is another way that we get to meet people of different cultures. Music and things of that nature brings us together. And so Nelly was started hanging out with my best friend, and by the 8th grade, going into the 9th grade, so after middle and going into high school, that summer he started to come over to my place quite a bit, and we had the gaming system, and we hung out there, and he lived close enough where he could run home. We would time him going home some nights and see if he could make it there before Sanford and Son came on, and he'd call up and you'd hear Sanford and Son music playing in the background. Right. But Nelly was hands down, he was the most talented person across the board in everything. You wanted to be the best basketball player, he was going to shoot your lights out. You wanted to be the best football player, he was our Deion Sanders, our cornerback, our punt returner, our wide receiver. He was Ozzie Smith in baseball. I thought that was what he was going to be really next, was a shortstop in the majors. And then he could sing, dance, and do whatever else that he wanted to do. And so, roller skating, whatever. He was that guy from a talented kind of it factor standpoint. So he and I, growing through high school, became great friends. I was entrepreneurial. I went off to college. Like I said, I ended up what they call a super duper senior by the time I graduated. But I graduated from St. Louis U, spent my last 4 years there, and still being in St. Louis and around each other, we hung out quite often as he started to get into taking rap music seriously with the group, the St. Lunatics. Most of them come from Kiwan, who's in the group, and I, lived near each other. We went to the same elementary school together. He was a year behind me. His brother and my sister were in the same class. So we had a very tight-knit closeness to us. And he, as he started to have success, wanted to do entrepreneurial things. And I started working at a bank, and he told me, I'll pay you the same salary, come work for me. And that started our journey. And I helped him develop some entrepreneurial projects and worked with him from 2000 to 2004.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I must admit, I have heard of Nelly. I have not ever listened to any of his music.
You might have heard one or two of his songs without knowing it was him.
I probably have, probably in a movie.
Yeah. And so if you ever watched Bad Boys 2 with Will Smith and whatnot, he had the hit song with that. But he had a song called Hot in Here that was number one. And so you might have heard it in different,
okay. All right,
even commercials or whatnot. But yes.
So do you need me to post them up on the Spotify and play it while we're talking?
No, I will probably do that after we get off of here, Steven.
Jake, not to be prejudging your country accent, but Nelly's last album was country inspired, as he called it, and he did it with a lot of different country artists, mixed songs where he would bring them on and did some songs together. So.
I'm gonna fool you here. I'm a metalhead.
Okay.
Black Sabbath, Motorhead. Yeah.
Well, between us, you're the one.
So where'd you get your inspiration to write your book?
So I went from working with Nelly into a group of African Americans that left the United States, went to Israel, formed a community there that was based on health and peace, and I saw what an intentional community looked like. My grandmother took me there in 2005. Nelly's uncle was actually a part of the group of Hebrew Israelites, and they were living there. They made beautiful music. As a matter of fact, that's what they were known for. Israel named them the Village of Peace, and they were known for their music. When I went on this trip with my grandmother, I found out about how we would ask all around about them, and I was able to go visit their community for a day, and I saw a level of peace I had not seen, and I saw how intentional that was. When I first got involved with them, like, I've always wanted to be a part of something like this. They went, sit down and learn, because you're still bringing your traditions, and all you can bring is what you know to the table. But you need to take a step back and say that you don't know how we built this. So learn from us what the level of intentions go into into building something like this. And so I went through that process. I met my son's mother, who he was 6 years old when I met her. He's 20 now. And she told me that, it's great that you love us the way you do, but if you really want to help us, go help your people who don't understand get an understanding. And at that same time, I was going through my organizational psychology course. And there was a few people in there that had really good intentions on helping others and just couldn't understand why those other groups of people, whether it was people, they did virtual meetings with trying to develop young leaders from all over the world. And some of these leaders had been through horrible things in their lives, and they just didn't understand how I'm trying to help them. And they don't know, they won't just let me help them. And I said, did you ever acknowledge that, you don't even know them, and they don't know you, and they've been through a lot, and maybe they don't trust you. Maybe people who look like us have done harm to them, and maybe we have to do some things to build their trust and at least acknowledge a place where we can get to know each other. And they went, no. And I went, I got a lot of work to do, because even I joined some white anti-racism groups, and there was a lot of great intention and a lot of lack of knowledge of the people we say we're trying to help. What do they really want? How do they really think about us? What do they say when they're at the barbecue talking about white folks? What you don't know anything about them. So it's hard. And I felt like I was a doctorate talking to fifth graders too often. And the only way I could kind of get it out would be in a book. Well, I thought I had a ghostwriter who turned out he had the ghost part down packed. And so after the George Floyd incident, and I saw George W. Bush talk about, well, we need to finally address this, core issue of racism. I forgot exactly how he said it. But I thought, well, you're George W. Bush. Like, if you want to really address it, lead the way. You got so much power and influence. And I looked at that, and shortly before that, I looked at the presidential race of 2016, and Hillary Clinton was talking about Flint, Michigan, and how horrible it was, and how she was so passionate about it. And then she beat Bernie, and there was nothing else about it. She didn't give I didn't see one iota sense about it. So I was like, well, so you just used this issue to get the black vote to make sure that you beat Bernie, and then you didn't care. So here you lose. What happened? The people in Flint still need help. You're still Hillary Clinton. You still have power and influence. You're not going to do it. So that just, between those two things, really spurned me into, okay, let me write my book. And it was the person that was helping me wanted my stories. I didn't really want to tell my stories, but I understood later that they helped me, because the second half of this book is 7 steps to healing the harms of our culture, and how can we come together and go through some healing, repair, and come out with what does it look like to build towards humanity after that.
And where is this book available? Where will we find it?
On most websites that would sell a lot of books. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, I believe Target, you can get it through. It's not in very many stores itself, but totally online. I actually did a audio book. Nelly's son was my producer for that. And so the audio book's available on Audible, iTunes, all the different places where you would get books online, and it's an ebook format as well.
Okay, and we have a question now from X Beans and Biscuits. Asks, how active are you in Lulu with mentoring the next generation?
And that is really the step that I'm focused on now. So I'm glad he asked the question, or she. I don't know, he, she. But and I don't mean it from that standpoint. Right. I just didn't know from the name standpoint. But I'm looking at different organizations, in talks with them now about doing so. I've gone to colleges, the college age, and I don't mean just people who are in college, but that young adult age is what is my target of who I'm working with and talking to, because I remember I was a child as a child. I purposely wanted to be a child as a child. And I knew I wanted to be an adult as an adult. And so going through that shift in our lives, I watched people in college try and figure out how to be different maybe than where they were as children. Maybe they weren't as popular. They had a new opportunity going to a different place and could spark themselves into something different. Or, how do I want to be as an adult growing up? I think that age group is the ripest for going through the process of changing things for us. And so
Well,
that's
see, I apologize. I would have thought younger would have been a better attack, because when they're younger is where either their parents or social media or other things are making them focus just on this. So as they get older, they're more focused and more focused. I would figure a younger age you would
yes,
jump
and
down.
I would love that. I think that's for me, I haven't seen the path to reaching them as easily. And, right now, even in colleges, it used to be a more welcome place for all different points of view to come to and talk. And, it started being shut down. And I'll say this, there was starting to be shut down of people from what we call the right point of view coming to colleges, and then they were banned. And then it was, it's this person have an anti-Semitism background, and so people like Angela Davis were stopped. And now it's just such a hard way to get into even speaking at a place where it used to be open for people of all kind to be able to speak to. So that's been a challenge. But yes, the outreach, I don't want to speak too soon on the organization that I'm looking to work with for that. But yes, I'm in talks with some.
Okay. I read in your bio or read in the questions here that that you're pretty passionate about reparations.
Yes.
You talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I think we paint reparations with a broad stroke of writing a check, and it's going to cost somebody and it's going to benefit somebody. And I look at it differently. I think it needs to be more than a check, in the sense that we need psychological and emotional and as a societal change. And we need to see reparations as a healing process that will benefit us all, so that we can have a greater opportunity to share space with one another, learn, and be curious about one another. But I use the example: if I'm walking across the street, and someone purposely runs me over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm now got broken legs and messed up back. My lumbar's all screwed up. My head has trauma. One thing I don't want is somebody who has great intentions to come help me, but no knowledge of the situation, to come lift me up and try and move me to safety, because who knows what also other harm can be done.
Yes.
The other thing I don't want is everybody to look around and go, I didn't do it. I'm not going to help you out. And I don't want someone to call the ambulance and them who are in a systemic position of ability to help me to go, I didn't do it. I don't want to help. I'm not going to help you out. And doctors and all of this, right? So it actually takes so many of us to come together to heal. And in that process, if I witness that and I call the ambulance, I have a vested interest in hoping that this person is okay, right? I would be concerned. Hey, keep me posted. It would be on my mind, because we're naturally humanly wanting to heal, see each other do well. At the case, of course, we have this natural competition as well, but also we have love and caring and sharing and supporting as part of human nature. And that's that can shine through in this scenario. The ambulance people who help me into safety can also benefit, right? That's their job. That's what they do. They're here to serve, and to see somebody that they can help repair, it brings some value to their lives. The doctors, right? And it's on me, even though I didn't cause it, it's on me to repair myself, to go through the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
It's also going to be some pain involved, right? If to get to my torn ligaments, you're going to have to cut me open. That cut is going to cause additional pain just to get to the healing process, right? We say things get worse before they get better. And we have to be emotionally mature enough to even understand that and respect that part of the process. They also, going through the rehab process, it's, when you lift weights, there's pain involved in strengthening yourself. You're tearing muscles, you're rebuilding them, the pain involved in this process. So to try and avoid the pain of it. But before we get to the step of reparations, my fourth step in the book was to appreciate the value of others. If we could take a step back and start to, instead of being threatened by other cultures because we're in this competitive nature, to actually want to heal. To actually, let's take some time to acknowledge what other cultures and appreciate their value. Those are financial terms as well, right? The value of your home, you want it to appreciate. The value of your community, you want it to appreciate. You don't want the value of your produce to appreciate to where you can't afford them. So there's all of these these complex things to a simple solution of healing. Can we want to heal? Because on the other side of that, right, my family would need to help me heal. There's so much community involved in the healing process that we would all also gain from that. If we don't heal it, though, right? If I'm sitting there and I can't move, and for a long time I have to sit there, eventually society is going to be like, can you get out of the street, please? Can you please move? You're in our way. And if I go to try and move myself without the proper healing, I'm going to overcompensate and potentially cause more harm to myself. So there's a whole process involved in this healing process. And I think that if we get there, I can't go back out into the workforce and compete. I can't go to the basketball court and compete until I've had some healing. And if we're going to maintain this level of competition, then we have to have some level of reparative justice in this process, not in a way that it doesn't have to take from anybody else. You can raise the value of homes, but we've taken from eminent domain from Black communities to build highways, to build supermarkets and shopping malls and all kinds of things that has typically been the target of that. Why can't we take from the richest of the rich and say, hey, you guys need to contribute back to giving up some of that land or those resources or whatnot? Why can't we have a level of control of their own destiny be a part of this? Because there's, going back to that valuing thing, there's no history of revenge on us. For as much as we've done harmful to Black communities over the course of time, they just want to be freed and have the same opportunities as us. And I think that's a value we should appreciate more. And we don't have to be afraid of what healing is all about. And it helps us focus on being the best versions of ourselves. And I think there's a lot to gain there.
Okay. All right. We have a question coming in. I believe this is one of our listeners in Nepal. And Bendesh says, on their climbs, there is no color or economic separation. It is sheer devotion to the climb amongst the climbers and guides. How can we fix these obvious issues, not just in your country, speaking about our country, but the world?
Right. And we need that type of example, and we need to be able to see how much enjoyment comes from being in the climbers and the guides position on that mission. When we don't focus on the color of the climbers and the guides, when we could learn something along the way, I'm sure if it's a long enough climb and whatnot, you actually get to be curious about one another and see the value of that. To me, it's just such a much more enjoyable experience than the one we're going through now. It doesn't matter what race you are, right? Like there are people suffering so much, and there's so little people with concentrated wealth, and this idea of that being valuable instead of the value of the interactions that he just, or I think that was a he, mentioned in the climb. Those interactions and that social atmosphere can be celebrated more, and we can start to have, if we start to just have social experiences that we're enjoying and make those more valuable than the way that we value our Mercedes Benzes and some of the other things, in way we value technology, going back to valuing the earth, providing us some beautiful fruits and vegetables and things we can share, but that using that climb as the example. There's so many examples like that. Playing basketball, it doesn't have to be military, but even in the military, you get this opportunity to be on a mission of some sort across cultural lines, and you get a beautiful experience. And if we can start to really show that we value those things, there's a greater chance that our values will start to dictate how we approach each other and what's important to us.
Okay. All right. Another question here from More Be Less on X. What opportunities do whites or others have that we do not have? I worked hard to go to school and better myself. Why can't others?
So, of course, others can, but the fact that many people even see themselves as that being a struggle, going through some traumas that then become generational traumas, become difficult for us. There's now at this point, there's people of all economic levels, and Jake, I don't want to pick on small towns, but who haven't experienced life in the big cities, and they don't know, but they've developed a certain level of prejudgment that maybe they think is holding them back. So the fact that we have systems that don't make us see that we all can do it and feel that we all can do it and feel supportive on our way to doing all of those things, rather than if you can do it, somebody else can too. We don't have to live like that. We can, yes, it's great that you were able to see that. It's great that there is opportunity truly to do that. There's also so much that keeps knocking us down. If a $400 bill can really cause harm to certain people, that's a system that makes it challenging. And after a while, the fact that so many people don't see their future as bright and see the opportunities that present themselves to them is a problem that we should also address. So yes, of course, you can do it. Anybody can do it. We still need a system that's designed with more love in mind.
Okay. All right. I can get down with that. Another question here. How do you define cancel culture, and what do you think about it?
Well, I define cancel culture as stopping the momentum of working through things, right? So it can be killing somebody you don't like, or doesn't, gets in your way, road rage, all kind of things. We can try and cancel people's lives. It can also be that someone made a past mistake, and then rather than see if they've learned from it, can we move them in the right direction, we're saying, nope, we don't want to deal with you anymore, right? It can be the canceling of teaching about our history and giving access of knowledge to all of us. And we also don't learn the truth about our own history. We learn some about it, but not the entire truth about how we got to here and what kind of intentions were created by powers to be and ruling classes and those types of how decisions were made. So there's so much that, whether it's being hidden from us, whether we're stopping the conversation, like we talked about earlier. My cousin became a Trump supporter. I don't want to talk to them anymore. That's a level of canceling. A moment ago, you liked them. Then you found out one thing about them, and now you can't stand them or whatever it is. Instead of, why can't we go through cussing each other out, saying some things we don't like about each other, and, maybe even be wrong a few times and still work through it to get to a better place. When I was writing my book, I was an Uber driver, and this guy got in my car, and we had a 35-minute ride, and he had drunk a little bit, but he wasn't drunk, but he was hyped up over a conversation around politics that he had. And we got into an argument, and we both could feel like we were just saying emotional stuff, right? Mm-hmm. 15 minutes into the argument, we got through that process, and we kept the conversation going, and we started to recognize we both could teach each other about things that we didn't know that the government was doing, maybe that we didn't like, how much support was being given to big developers and financial support. So yes, it looked like they were these great entrepreneurs making these buildings and being so successful, but there was a level of really support that could have gone to the to the working class, to the workers, or whatever that was being done. Whatever it was, we came to much more agreement after we worked through that initial bang, screw you, F that, forget that, and saying things in an emotional state that aren't necessarily exactly logically what you mean to say, but we're all in this tense moment. Okay, we had this tense moment, we worked through it, and it was a beautiful ending to a conversation that had a heightened moment. Yes. I argue with my friends. I'm most comfortable to argue with my friends the most. So if we can see and allow each other to get through some of that emotions, have those mistakes from our past. Somebody wore blackface and now we don't want them to be governor anymore. And, except they're in a position to make some change. Why can't we actually hope that they learn their lesson and work together with them to see if we can get a better result moving forward? Because we'll never take away that picture that was of the past, right?
Yeah. Now, somebody wants to know, did you get 5 stars for the ride?
Did I get 5? I did get 5 stars for the ride.
Nice.
I even got a good tip. So
good deal. Hey,
more than just don't eat yellow snow.
I understand. Hey, this has been a great chat. We're going to kind of have to ease on out of here. If somebody wants to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you?
So please go to the website, raceforwhat.com, and that's FOR what.com.
Okay, it's down there in the banner.
Thank you. You can get to my my email that way, but it's race4what@gmail. And my phone number, the business phone number is on there. And my social media links are all on there. That's the simplest way to, rather than start spewing out a bunch of things and people not in a position to write them down. Race for What, and you can contact me every which way.
All right. Well, JD, it has been a great chat. Learned a little bit. If I'm ever back over in the St. Louis area, I might just look you up.
I would love it.
All right. Well, MisFitNation, thank you for checking in this evening. Remember, this is episode 446. Remember to like and subscribe. And for those that catch it on other mediums, it'll be releasing on December 27th, but it will be on YouTube forever. So,
Excellent.
Forever and ever.
forever and ever. Well, hey,
So Merry Christmas to everybody. that
hey,
just-
Merry Christmas, Misfit Nation. We love you, and
Thank you, everybody.
thank
Thank
you,
you,
everybody, and we'll see y'all next week.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.